Yo, welcome to the Relume live stream, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. We have Damian Martelli with us, and he is the Figma Sites expert. So today is going to be a really exciting one because obviously we had the big drop from Figma 2 weeks ago. And so we are going to show you how you can build websites 10x faster with Relume and Figma Sites, the day you've all been waiting for. So this is going to be a really, really fun one. So Adam, Damian, how you guys doing today?
Good to be here.
Good, I'm pumped.
Nice. We got the beats, we got the vibes. You guys watching live, say hi. Go ahead,
We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. So Damo actually has been doing a lot of the work behind the scenes. I'd say he's probably probably spent the most time in Figma Sites out of anyone I know. So yeah, I'm excited for what he's going to share today. We're going to show you what we've been learning over the past 2 weeks, looking at the workflow from Relume to Figma. When we first trialed it, we were actually pleasantly surprised with how well it flows. And I think there's going to be some really interesting use cases out of this. Maybe you don't use this for a production site, but maybe you use this to share with clients and get like a more realistic demo of your website, things like that. So yeah, I'm excited to jump in and actually even learn from what Damo's been sort of looking into as he has been leading this project. So yeah, Damo, do you want to tell the audience a little bit more about yourself, what you do at Relume?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I've been here at Relume for 2.5, coming up to 3 years now. And obviously there's been a lot of change, a lot of growth in that time. But yeah, more recently, obviously on the product side, I'm a designer here at Relume. And when Figma Sites obviously came out a couple of weeks ago, we're obviously very interested in what that could mean for our users and our goal of allowing people to build and develop websites even faster as a new way to do that. So yeah, I've been busy digging in, seeing how our components and I guess our site builder and everything works together with Figma Sites. And yeah, like Adam said, I think we'll pleasantly surprised with how well things integrate. Figma Sites is obviously still in beta. There's a lot of improvements we hope to see. But yeah, I think it's exciting what you can achieve now and hopefully what you'll be able to achieve in like a few months' time if Figma continues to invest and improve the tool. So keen to show you guys.
So good. And hey, fun fact, outside of Adam, Dan, and Slater, the original three, Damian was like the next hire. And so like he's an OG, he's been around. So this is going to be a really good stream, especially you Relume experts in positioning yourself. If you guys can understand what Damian's going to share with you and you want to like put yourself in the market to being like early, being an expert in Figma Sites to then, you know, produce websites at scale using Relume, this stream is all for you. So pay attention real good. We're going to position you as the expert. And so great. So without further ado, should we just kick it off? Adam, we're going to share with your screen.
Yeah.
And you're going to do some early concepts and then
yeah, sounds good.
All right, cool.
Yeah, cool. So we'll show the full end-to-end process here. Like any Relume project, starting with the sitemap. Now I've pre-prepped this sitemap. It's for a freelancer tool called Luma OS. It's going to have a home page, pricing page, a login page, and some resources. So small website because turns out Figma Sites is still in beta and it's a small, simple website is going to be the best website to the build for this demo. I've prepped some wireframes as well. I used the template we were using from one of the last live streams we did with Alex Napier on copywriting. So I'm using one of his templates here. So we've got a nav bar, we've got a hero section, got some social proof of people using this tool or clients using this tool. We have a pain points section where we talk about the pain points and how the product's going to solve those pain points. Then we introduce the solution to reinforce the hero section. And then we have feature A, feature B, a little bit more about that, and then a testimonial. And then we'll have the last feature C as well. And then we end with a footer with a call to action. And then, yeah, for the other pages, they're pretty standard. Best practices for a pricing page. We've got a login page and resources. So I'm just going to quickly get through this one. I'm going to just generate the copy for this page. It's referencing a prompt I put together for the company that basically details all the things we need to know about this company. So I've got the copy ready, and I think we can just jump into the concepting. So once we have the wireframe, let's jump into this style guide. So we've pre-prepped some stuff for this. We have some assets in a Figma file that our team has put together. And these assets, yeah, they're super nice. Shout out to Andy and our team for helping us put these together. So yeah, these assets, you know, the platform is for freelancers. It's called Luma OS. One sec, so that means Luma operating system. And so it's like features a little bit of UI and a blend of like photos of freelancers and web designers that use the product as well. So got these assets ready. So I'm going to jump in and I'm going to start creating a concept based on these assets. So the first thing I'll do is I'll probably just like take it section by section and I'll form the color palette that we want to create here. So I've got my blue color palette. I'm going to just reference the colors used in the Figma here. So I think the secondary color is...
These colors are so nice. I love it. Good primary colors.
Yeah, it's... So I could lock these down and explore some other colors that we could use. For now though, I actually don't probably need any more colors than these three. Now in terms of the font, I'm going to try and match something similar to like the logo and the UI here. So probably going to go with a sans serif. And just like a bunch here. Okay. Now, based off these likes, it's going to start suggesting some fonts I can use, so I can just have a whirl around here and see what's feeling good. Also, what I've been using recently is our browse section. So we recently had creators put together some font collections. So I've been actually using some of these as well, just to sort of find fonts that are cool and then I like them, and then our AI just recommends similar fonts. So yeah, I'm going to do that here as well.
That's nice. How was it chatting with Brett? I mean, if you guys haven't seen, he's been crushing it on Twitter with his AI content. But you know, it's funny, like when we first heard about him, he's making all this money, but no one really knew if he could do good quality work. But now he's really, you know, giving some...
Yeah, he's talented.
Yeah, giving some proof.
Yeah, he's super talented.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to use a Google free font.
Yeah.
A lot of tutorials from him on Twitter recently of, you know, how to create like little assets, and with all the new AI tooling, generating assets in different styles. I've actually found them super interesting, helpful as well. So yeah, it's been killing it.
So it's cool to know his favorite font pairings here. And then you guys have Dan Petty and Fonz, and they're all crushing it. It's wild. Okay, so these are all Google fonts here, essentially, yeah? Or you're turning on
Yeah,
the
I want to
top
go for a Google font.
Yeah.
It's probably just going to make the whole workflow much simpler because we won't have to buy the font, etc. So I'm using Inter as well because that's what I think we used in the UI here.
Okay.
And then in terms of the buttons, I might just make it rounded
Yeah.
and just use the default. Okay, let me add the logo and the assets in here. So I've got all prepped. So we got the light mode logo.
Nice. That's great.
The dark mode logo here as well. All right, sweet. Now I'm just going to add in the assets we've prepped into each section.
Ooh. Like that. It's always good to see how you prep the assets here for like the hero sections and layered it, the way you export it. It's nice.
Yeah, the assets just make it. Yeah, the assets just make it so much better. Really, really changes the concept, right?
Yeah. This is nice. The
Maybe
speed in which you can upload the images. Nice.
I think the key to really bringing this to life, and I think the more that you start to use Style Guide Builder, you understand just kind of those steps you need to make to really bring things to life. So having assets like this prepped and ready to go, and even using things like PNG assets with transparent backgrounds, you'll see the power of that in a second when we start to play around with the color schemes. And it just really quickly lets you iterate and like rapidly try some different concepts. I think having good assets and also prepping them in a way that kind of works is super powerful, and just like speeding up your workflow here.
So how excited are you?
Yeah, one thing at the moment.
Oh, go ahead.
One thing at the moment with these, with Relume, and we're going to be solving this, but if I want to create like an icon like this, I have to actually go into the Figma and create like a frame. So you know, Style Guide Builder is still in beta. This is one of the things that we want to eventually fix and solve. But if I did want to achieve this aesthetic where I'm using an icon like this, then I would have to create the frame. So yeah, that's a bit of a tip there.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
All right, so for this section, I think I'm going to use this first dashboard screenshot.
And Adam, did you prep all these assets, or these are who's it? That other gentleman that you mentioned?
Andy actually
sorry.
did. Yeah,
got it. Yeah, this is nice.
Cool. All right, so it could be worth maybe discussing a little bit more about the work we've been doing with Figma whilst I work on this and get it to the end.
Cool.
Maybe Damo, you can take us through like some of the updates that you made to the components.
Yeah, let's switch it up to your screen, Damo.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go through it. So a big part of obviously Figma Sites launching is now people are able to publish their designs to the internet. So previously, when we had our component library and we had our Figma kit, we had 1,500 components that visually looked like their Webflow counterparts and the other components in our library that you can access in Site Builder, but they were never really built to be functional, I guess. So resizing kind of worked. Things were set to fill and would respond to the width of your frame, but there was never really a strong consideration on what that would look like across, you know, different browser sizes and different breakpoints, because we never really had to. Figma was always about kind of perfecting the design, getting approval from your client, and then you'd go into Webflow to actually build that, or you'd build it with React from our React library. so suddenly with Figma Sites, now we had to consider that of, okay, these are now real functional components that can be published to the web. So how do we support that? So we made a number of updates. I think a couple of the biggest ones that support that responsiveness was wrapping everything in a new container frame. So a lot of these updates have been inspired by client first and I guess the frameworks that we have in place for our Webflow components. And now we've brought that into Figma. So yeah, we've actually been in touch with the FinSuite team and just seeing if they had any opinions about this, and obviously client first being used in this way. So now we have in all 1,500 components, and shout out to Maria on our team who gave us a massive hand with updating these, but we now have a container in every component, which is connected to a max width variable. So what that means is if I now take one of these components and drag it out here, in the old components, it would just continue to fill forever, and you'd end up with two really stretched out, gross looking columns. Whereas now they'll hit that max width container and kind of keep your content centered within your page if you were viewing this as a published website on a really wide browser. And likewise, if I continue to shrink, everything will scale kind of in ratio. So now all of our components are connected to that container. And we've also set some max width properties on other things in our components. For example, these kind of header sections, previously they just had a fixed width, which meant if you shrunk them to be smaller, they'd start to get cut off, whereas now they'll continue to always fill the space until they hit that max width. So that was probably the biggest change that we made for responsiveness. And then to power all of that, we've now connected them to variables in the Figma kit. So if I open up our variables panel in here, we now have a new collection for spacing and sizing. And these variables are what power some of the properties that I just mentioned. So we have container variables, so you can quickly come in here and change what that maximum width of your container is. If you want it to be a bit wider, if you want it to be a bit narrower, you can set that here, and that will update through all 1,500 components. You can change all the max width properties for those like headings that I just showed. So you can control that with one variable and that'll update through the whole library. And then while we're at it, and we had this new variable system that we were using now, we also added in variables for section and page padding. And what those are, if I just make this panel smaller for a second. Let's just close it completely. So your section padding is your space above and below
it's a vertical padding.
A component. It says your vertical padding here. So all of our components are generally set to padding section large, so you can change that value, or if occasionally you might want one section just not to have that much space, you can change it to another property here. And also page padding, which is your left and right horizontal padding. So that's now connected to a global padding variable, which will always make sure there's 64 pixels on the size of your page. And with all of that, we also have mobile responsiveness. So leveraging variable modes, which is a premium Figma feature, but we also have values of all these paddings for mobile. So if you've got your design and you switch it over to the mobile breakpoint, all of those values will change to suit mobile. So they've been like the biggest updates for responsiveness that we've made. And then there's been a bunch of other small quality of life things, like setting image aspect ratios to lock. So as you do continue to resize, they'll stay in like a square or a particular aspect ratio to match the way that our Webflow components behave as well. So yeah, they're probably the biggest ones, and that applies across the whole library, and then powers this new idea of I can now publish this website and it's going to respond like a normal website would, like our Webflow components do. So it's been a big process, but I think, yeah, it's landed in a pretty good spot, not only for people using Figma Sites, but just our Webflow users and everyone who's using this Figma kit anyway.
That's great. I love that you are going into detail, like how it's set up and how you set up the variable properties. But like really, people don't need to know all that, but it's all here. So it's really nice. Like for the beginner who uses these components, they can really resize it and it just works. And like, it's fantastic. That's great. But if you do want to adjust like your max width, for desktop, mobile, different breakpoints, you can do so right here. So this is fantastic. Awesome. Okay,
Yeah,
let's
100%.
switch it over to Adam. Let's see the update. How you doing?
Sweet. Yeah, good. So I've finished the concept here, and I've also just explored a second concept
Nice.
of a
Dark mode.
dark mode version of the page.
Cool.
And I was experimenting with what a third concept could look like. I was actually in the
Ooh.
middle of it. I started to just explore different color palettes instead of using the existing color palette.
Yep.
Oh, that looks interesting.
That's good. That's
Um,
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually,
guys-
I like that purple. I might just lock that purple in.
You guys know about the
Make this
exploration of mild, medium, spicy? It's like, you know,
No,
mild,
tell
just,
me.
just very subtle, conservative, maybe like a
Oh, got it.
like, you know, like a gray or pastel um brand color, and then medium is just, you know, it's average, it's okay, and then spicy is like you just go out there with the colors, kind of like what you're doing here. So that's a good approach for client work, like when you just want to give them a breadth of, you know, variety and option. So the first option's usually like a safe one if they have an existing color brand that like adheres to closely to what they have, and then the medium one's like pushes it a little bit further but still maintains that vibe. And then yeah, the spicy version is just like, let's just go out there, get messy, and see what sticks.
Yeah, I love that. We'll try and make this one a little bit more different. Maybe it goes against the original color palette here. I'm gonna see if I can quickly just update these assets to match
yeah.
the palettes here. Let's see.
Cool.
I'll try green on this. I'm just gonna work on the hero section and see what that looks like.
Yeah, sure.
If I just get that, and then I'm gonna take the yellow. put
So
these
Demo,
up here.
I'm just gonna switch over to my screen real quick here on Figma Sites. Do you have, I mean, in particular, like, what are your thoughts on the release, on the features? I mean, with grids and everything like that. Yeah, how do you feel about, like, do you feel limited to it? Are there any certain features that you want to see in you know, upcoming updates?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a really interesting like first pass at obviously like a website builder. I think there's a few interesting parts going on. I think at the moment it's probably not as fully featured as you would need to kind of, you know, challenge a framer or a webflow. Definitely not a webflow at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think they are going for that framer kind of like designer market. A lot of the concepts that you use in Figma are very familiar, and I was surprised with, I guess, like the ease and familiarity with a regular Figma design file. If I've got a page, I can still just kind of, you know, start building from scratch and drag and drop and create assets anywhere, which is both a good and bad thing. I think that's good that it's familiar and it doesn't limit me in the design process, but I think that can translate to bad code. And I have seen like a lot of things online where people are like,
Yeah.
you know, the code's not up to scratch, and it's not, there's like a lot of like divs and kind of like nesting and all this crazy stuff that they're having to do to kind of make it work. But I think it's a really interesting proposition that I can just kind of start creating from scratch and not feel limited, and then probably go back through and clean up some things later. Whereas some other tools, when I've used like Framer and things like that, are great and it generates like great code. But sometimes when you just want to like play around a little bit, it's a bit harder to do that, and you still kind of do that in Figma occasionally first, and then go kind of build it in Framer the same way you'd start in Figma and then go build in Webflow. So this solves part of that, but then you've got the trade-off of probably some poorly generated code and things like that. But yeah, I think there's still a lot of work from them to do, not only features that adding in, obviously CMS is coming, you know, like forms, and if you've actually got, you know, some sort of site which fulfills a purpose of, you know, allowing users to sign up to something or sign up to an email, or I don't even just like get in touch with a business, that's kind of lacking at the moment, but no doubt that'll come. So I think at the moment, if you were a designer and wanted to spin out a portfolio website just to showcase your work online, and you're probably not too worried about, you know, like the quality of your site or like SEO and other things, you just want some sort of online portfolio to send people a link, then perhaps that's a a thing you might be able to start using it for. But yeah, I think there's still a lot of improvements that they need to make before it becomes like a viable tool for like commercial and like proper websites. I think Grid's really interesting. It's slightly unusable in its current state. We did have a look at, obviously we use grids a lot in our Webflow components.
Right.
For lists and like
Yep.
card elements and stuff. A big thing it's missing is the ability to hug the contents and like dynamically resize as the content increases or decreases inside the grids. The height of a grid row is kind of fixed.
Yeah.
So that actually limited us from being able to use it for some of our components that use grid in Webflow. So slightly unusable in its
there,
current
right?
state unless you're doing like a really, unless you're doing a really fixed like bento layout.
Yeah.
It's probably not super useful, but
Yeah.
no doubt I think a lot of these things will come. So I think it's a really interesting first pass at a product, and I guess time will tell how much they continue to invest in it and build it out and introduce a lot of this functionality that I think is needed.
Yeah, have you, I mean, you probably spent most times in playing around with Figma sites. Have you looked into little things like the sizing? Like, is it still within pixels or is it rem? How does that play out when you publish? Have you looked into that?
Yeah, so everything still is in pixels. So another limitation at the moment, there's no like percentages, you can't use rem, there's no like fractional units for grids and things like that. So again, that is limiting. I think for a designer who doesn't really have website development experience, like that's probably fine. Like, oh yeah, I understand pixels, I know what that means, but in terms of responsiveness and then actually generating like a functional website, that's limiting. A lot of the way that interactions work is interesting, I'd say. Again, I think they're trying to cater for a Figma user who's familiar with Figma. And it almost feels like you're prototyping something where like you're switching maybe between two variants of the same component. If you want to do interactive things like FAQ accordions, which I'll demo in a bit. But they do have a bunch of built-in ones that you just showed on your screen there of like, it's really quick to add some like effects of something fading in or growing in or a marquee or other things like that. They just happen in one click, which is super powerful. Kind of feels like a bit like a slideshow, like you're creating a slideshow, you add some like preset transitions and animations, which is kind of nice. You don't want to take it too far. It's very easy to get caught up in the animation train and just add like a fade to everything and start to like, I don't know, make your website maybe a bit gross. But they make it super easy to get started. Yeah, for sure. That's where the designer needs to kind of like show their skill and understand like when's the right place to use them. What are those moments to like engage or like delight a visitor to your website?
Nice. Look at that. Less than half an hour, Adam came up with 3 concepts. That's beautiful. I love that.
He's cooked. The boy's been cooking.
Yeah, so
mild, medium,
I guess these
spicy.
contents aren't too far apart. I think that where I'd really challenge it further would probably be the assets. But for time, like this is 3 concepts. We've explored different color palettes. We've explored different typography and different UI. It still feels quite similar just because of the assets, but I think this is something if you were to present this to a client, they'd be pretty impressed. So I guess from here we can pick which one we want to move ahead with.
All right, guys.
Which one do you guys think?
Chat, let us know as well. I think for me, I'm liking the dark mode. It's pretty nice, but like the purple's fun to explore. What do you think, Damien?
Yeah, I'm thinking 1 or 2. The dark is nice. I think they suit that kind of like modern techie kind of aesthetic that the logo's going for.
Maybe do that. But I mean, in chat, if you guys want to vote, let us know. I just want to say hey to Andrew. He said he's been building with Relume since last year, and just really grateful to you guys. So yeah, should we go with number 2?
Yeah, for me, it's between. I think let's. Yeah, what are we going for? We're going for. Are we getting the votes in, or is?
No one's.
Let's get some votes in.
Yet. Okay.
Let's go with the OG. Let's go with the
Sure.
OG because I do think the OG is still
Yeah, Aurelian.
still the
Aurelian's
winner
like
here.
a number 3, but he's like in the purple. There's a few people watching.
All right,
but you want to go with this? Yeah, let's do it.
let's go with purple. Let's go.
This
with
is
purple.
for you, Aurelian.
All right, so, is that gonna throw you out, Damo?
No, it should be okay. I've got my backup
Yeah,
if
it should be
if things start taking too long.
Okay. All right,
Yeah,
let's
cool.
do it. Let's switch
All right,
over.
so this.
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Damon, you can probably take it from here. Hey.
Yeah, let's go for it. Okay, so hopping into Figma now. So now we want to export our project out of Relume and get it into Figma Sites eventually. But first, we just need to go through our current export flow and get it into a Figma design file. Currently, there's no plugins in Figma Sites. I think they are coming, which is a really exciting opportunity for us to perhaps import directly into Figma Sites. But for now, we need to go into Figma design first. So I'm just going to go open our Relume Figma plugin, and that will load up.
While you're doing that, I'm just gonna list out some questions. This is probably for you, Adam. So we got Travis saying, "Hey, since you can copy and paste Figma to Framer, have you considered adding direct Framer support?" And then on top of that, Scott's asking for basically the same thing for Elementor Pro rather than just for Webflow. Yeah, you got some requests from people here.
It's yeah. It is something that we discussed a lot internally. It sounds easy to do, but to actually fully support a community like a Webflow community or a Figma community takes a lot of work behind the scenes, particularly maintaining, keeping up to date with the both integrations. Like we've built plugins for Figma, we've built plugins for we've built a Webflow app, and just to maintain that and ensure it's always working is a lot of work. So if we were to expand, we would have to have a pretty strong reason for it, because we're a small team and we're just trying to provide the best possible experience that we can provide around Webflow and Figma for now, with the resources we have, because we don't want to just do something and do it like half as good as it should be. We want to do something and do it really well. So yeah, it comes back to it sounds like there's not much work to it, and to be honest, with the Figma the Framer flow, we have explored that. Like I can see people still just using Relume to get into Framer, but yeah, to fully support that, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Cool. Good answer. All right, so Demo, this is gonna take a while, right, to export the whole style guide that Adam was putting together.
It'll probably be another minute,
okay.
I reckon. So yeah, it's just going through, updating the style guide, and we'll bring in our homepage concept.
Yeah.
So at the moment, we're doing UI elements. We're getting there.
Okay, so walk me through the process of your approach when you're designing freely. Like you're saying in Figma, it's nice to just throw some images around on the layout, so you're not constricted by something like Webflow or even Framer, right? So now it's nice that in Figma Sites you can kind of do it all in one platform. So what's your approach of when you do early concepting and just absolute positioning, dragging images around with the layout, and then transition to actually applying it to a structured website?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is Figma Sites is there's still the canvas around all of your pages, but there's not the space to experiment as much. I know when I'm in Figma files, usually I've got multiple pages kind of listed in that panel on the left, and there's multiple rounds of iteration and exploration. Figma Sites, because you don't have multiple pages, pages in Figma Sites are literal web pages, you've only kind of got the one canvas to experiment in. So I don't see an issue with still using that canvas for small experimentation, but if it's really big exploration and different concepts, I think there still is the place for Figma design to do that first. And I think Figma's goal with this is that that's how they see you doing it. They understand that and they've made it as easy as possible to copy from a Figma design file across into Figma Sites. So I still see like the process living in Figma for maybe like early exploration. I mean, ideally Relume now solves a lot of that problem with Style Guide Builder and exploring multiple concepts. But yeah, then Figma Sites when you're kind of ready to build. And I think the canvas is then useful around the pages to like drag an asset off to the left and maybe play around with an individual asset, not like full site exploration.
Cool. All right, speaking of canvas, it's imported. So
cool. So we've got our homepage. I'm just going to import the other pages. I'm not going to import the login just because we've cleaned up this Figma file to make it slightly quicker to publish in the next step, and we've deleted some of the application UI that login pages fall under. So I'm just going to not do that one for now and just add these other wireframes, which these come in super quick. And you can see, even though these were wireframe styled, and in Site Builder we never actually styled them because we imported the style guide from step 1. These are all using like the button style and like the typography styles and everything from the homepage, because we've gone through and we've updated the style guide for this entire file with all of our colors and shades from Site Builder, all of the color schemes that we're using throughout our site, the UI elements, everything.
What a time saver.
So
it's a full-on design system here. So good.
Yeah, super powerful. So now the process of getting this across into Figma Sites begins. We've got our final designs here and we want to move them. Now, the first thing I would recommend users to do is to publish this as a library.
Okay.
So to do that, you click the little book icon up here and then you click publish. I'm just going to get that started because this will take a little while, and I might switch over to another file while this happens. But to explain what this is doing is it just publishes all of like the text styles, the color styles, all of our components in this file as a library so you can access them in another file, which will be our Figma Sites file. If you don't do the step and you're on a free Figma plan, you still can copy and paste these pages across into a Figma Sites file, but it'll just become like detached from the text styles. You won't be able to really quickly change and swap between styles as easily across in Figma Sites. So it just slightly like makes the process not as nice and as powerful as it could be. And publishing this as a library will also give us all 1,500 components styled and ready to go across in Figma Sites, so you can really quickly continue to build out pages. Adam,
as you're going around, is there an update? Did you adjust and added the grid feature now instead of these like nested auto layout layers?
I can probably answer that one.
Yeah, sure. Maybe Damien, you can show us on your screen here. You can dig in there.
Yeah, for sure. So we investigated it, but unfortunately, just with the current state of Figma's grids, they still aren't quite up to scratch for what we need to make this a really easy editing and exporting experience. So if I swap this to grid, I might just show how it works. It has now set this to a 4-column grid. And if I duplicate one of these items, it'll snap down really nicely now and fill these grid spots, which is sweet. But some of the issues start to come in with responsiveness. So like I mentioned here, if I look at this item, this grid cell is not going to continue to expand. If I have like multiple lines of text here, this grid row as a whole, if I can select it over here,
not hugging.
Doesn't hugging, and there's no option to set it to hug. So it's all like fixed height. And then likewise, if I continue to remove content from here, that row is not shrinking to kind of hug that content. So for us, that was a pretty bad experience compared to what we currently have around our auto layout, that if a user adds extra list items or removes list items or content changes in Site Builder, when you export, the grid's probably going to look pretty broken when the content changes in size. So for now, it's not quite ready, but no doubt Figma will hopefully fix this really soon. And then I think we'll have everything we need to make this a really nice like grid experience once we can hug and fill on the grid rows. Also, fractional units would be really nice to be able to, have this column or the column here to have a fractional unit, but you can only do
FR1,
like pixel values.
FR.5, and things like that. Yep.
Yeah,
That's great.
that would be great. So yeah, unfortunately not quite there yet, but we hope we hope coming soon. Cool. While this is publishing, so I guess this takes about 10-ish minutes to publish. I do have another version ready and already published. So do we want to switch across to use that, or do we want to kill some time for 10 minutes?
What do you want to do, Adam?
Maybe switch. Let's switch across. I think let's keep this going. Let's keep cooking.
Yeah.
Let's keep cooking. All right. Where did I have? Did I close it?
All right, I'm gonna ask some questions here. Lester is asking, are you able to export sitemap, wireframes, and style guide, or how does it work in terms of client presentation and collaboration? Yeah, I think you can share. You can share your sitemaps, your wireframes, all with your clients. So Lester, have you been using the Relume site builder? Let us know. So I think if you have been using it, you should be able to know.
Yeah, you can export that all into Figma. With the style guide, we have a pitch concepts feature, which you can share with them, and they receive these concepts. So that's easy. Or you can export these concepts. Yeah. Or you can export a concept into Figma, and share it through Figma as well.
Yeah. So Relume basically is the tool that you would have those early conversations with your clients to explore concepts first before you even like show them your Figma file, or even like your Webflow file or Framer and things like that. So Relume's basically like where you want to go first to have those high level conversations before you spend even more time and resources. So that's what we're all about, to save you time first up front, have those back and forth conversations, right? And then once you've agreed, then you move over to the building process.
Exactly, yeah. Demo, how you going?
Yeah, so the other file's still publishing, but I've got my pre-prepared demo that has already been published handy here. So on my screen, I've got the version of like concept 1 in here. So it was that gray and black style, and I have gone ahead and published this as a library. So now we're ready to go across into Figma Sites. So here I've just created a new Figma Sites file, and I'm going to create a blank site. And the first thing I'm going to do before I copy and paste my content across is to come and enable my library. So I'm going to browse libraries, and I'm going to click Luma OS, add this to the file. So now you can see this is attached, and if I click in, we've got access to all 1500 components in here ready to like drag and drop into our page. So I could just do that, get my style guide from Site Builder, and then just build from scratch in here if I wanted to. But obviously we've got our designs which we want to bring across. So I'm going to select this and copy it, bring it across into here, and I'm going to paste. And now we've got this into Figma Sites. And while we've got both our desktop and mobile breakpoints selected, I'm going to right click and click Create Page. So now what this has done is kind of linked these together as a page. And you'll see if I select the text over here on the left, Figma recognizes that that's the same piece of text over here on mobile. Same with this body copy. You can kind of see in light blue it's selected. Wow. So these are linked. That if I was to delete one, like delete that piece of text, it's deleting from mobile. If I was to update really cool. the heading, you can see it's updating on mobile as well.
That's great.
So that's pretty cool. So then, like I mentioned before, you can continue to build in here. Everything's connected to the text styles. Because I publish this as a library, I can see and access all of my other text styles, all of my other color styles in this file. And if I wanted to build upon this page, like let's say on this home page, I wanted to add an FAQ section, I could go into our Relume library of 1500 components, find an FAQ section that I liked. Let's go for the classic FAQ 1. And I find this a bit fiddly when I try to drop it into my page. Figma kind of defaults to dropping inside one of these components. So I'm just going to drop it to the side for now and just like cut that, and then select my whole page and paste it. and I'm just going to move it up here. And on mobile, because we've got all of our components built in desktop and mobile variants, I'm just going to swap that to mobile. And now we have that in. And this kind of looks a bit out of place. So I'm going to go ahead and just swap the color of this scheme. Now, ideally, we would have loved to build this feature with Figma modes. So it could just be one drop down and swap the mode. But unfortunately, that's limited to 4 modes on most paid Figma plans. So we just built it with like a flat set, like regular variables. But I can still pretty quickly come and swap this to color scheme 2 just by changing all of the color scheme 1 variables to color scheme 2 over here. Cool, and now we've got that FAQ section matching kind of this dark bottom section of the website, which is pretty sweet.
Nice.
So yeah, that's looking good. I think it might be interesting to see how Figma does their interaction. So for example, for this FAQ section, how would I actually get this to be functional? How would I get these to expand and collapse? Which is an interesting one. Like I mentioned before, everything kind of works very similarly to prototyping in regular Figma design. So to do this, I'm just going to I'll make a copy of these accordion sections and drag them out. Now Figma brings both the desktop and the mobile one, but I'm just going to delete mobile. And I'm just going to make a copy of it over here, and I'm going to delete the kind of body text from it. And I'm just going to rotate this little chevron around. So now I've got my open state and my closed state of this FAQ accordion, and I'm just going to select them both and create a component set.
Nice.
It's going to have a state, which is open and closed. And then I just need to add an interaction on this. So when I click this, I want it to change to the open one. I might do smart animate. I'll just leave it instant, actually. I found a few bugs going around with Figma sites. Maybe I'll show that. I'll do smart animate and I'll show you what the bug kind of looks like. And sweet, on click, I'm going to swap it back to that. So I'm just going to take, now that this is a component, I'm just going to take the component.
I love this, guys.
I'm just going to
the moment of truth.
Select all of these.
Will the
paste to replace. So we've got that in there.
Oh.
Now the moment of truth.
That paste to replace hack is so good.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. It's my most used Figma shortcut, I reckon.
Okay.
Great. So now we've got our FAQ.
Ooh,
if I click that,
come on.
We've got
beautiful,
nice little accordions.
Look at
the
that
arrows
rotation
kind of rotate around.
That's smooth.
So yeah,
that's it. It's working. Like it's that easy.
Yeah, working.
So this is.
We'd probably just want to check mobile. Oh yeah, no, they're looking all right.
Okay.
As well.
Could we test in mobile too, or
if I wanted to open an accordion and I wanted the other ones to close, this is where like you would work with Webflow and be able to do that with some custom code. Like, how would you go about doing that? Can you build an interaction around that, Damon?
Yeah, good question. I think that's a limitation at the moment. Like, I don't think there's everything. I wonder if you could. Everything's not possible. You could probably build it into leveraging variables. So you could say, like, when I click this, set variable, set like a condition that like if this variable is set to 1, like opening one of the accordions maybe sets the variable to 1. And you could check that if that variable is 1, do this. If it's 0, do that. So like there may be a way to build it into that. I'm not 100% sure if that will work, but that's just my off the top of the head thought that you could leverage variables. People who've built games with variables and conditions and stuff like that. So I'm sure there'd be some kind of hacky, powerful ways you might be able to get that working, but yeah, probably not as maybe powerful or simple as Webflow.
Could you
what else on this page?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to go in a little deeper on the animations or interactions. There's like marquee.
Yeah,
I mean, so we do have a logo marquee. Can we apply that?
Let's go through.
Yeah.
Let's go through and hook stuff up. So marquees are super easy. This is where I will say Figma is like super powerful to add these. So I can
Okay.
just select this frame,
Mhm.
interactions, marquee, and boom, that's pretty much done.
That's
I'm just
it.
going to
That's it.
duplicate the logos just so
What?
we've got a little bit more content to scroll through. If I hit play
Wow.
now,
That's it.
that marquee
It's so fast.
What?
is going. It's like one click and
Easy.
Awesome.
she's working.
It's literally you click
Um,
on it, you assign marquee, boom, done.
Done. So there's
Fantastic.
a bunch like that. So to hook up some other things, like just say I wanted to make this sticky at the top, I might
Mm.
fix this header. You can do some cool,
Ooh,
I might just fix this image on mobile. Let's fix
pretty
that.
cool, guys. That's pretty fun.
Give this a little bit of top padding and hug the content. Maybe these, as like I hover over them, I might want to like shrink them down or something, have like a little fun
Yeah.
interaction.
Okay.
Um,
Hover effect.
so
yeah.
on hover, we can set this to like shrink a little bit, and they kind of like indent in. So I'm just gonna like move them back to the left a little bit and back down.
Can you do a bounce transition?
And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do
Okay.
a custom. It's still bouncy, but just
Custom
a little
jiggle?
bit slower. I was playing around with it a little bit yesterday. And let's see what that looks like. So now you can see this header's sticky
Oh,
as we
cool.
kind of scroll over the top. And then yeah, we've got these
That's
little
cool.
bouncy animations as we go over the
is
images
cool.
here, which is
Hey,
pretty
that's
fun.
fun. That makes it really fun to just.
That was so
explore.
fast.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Adam, I wonder if you can
interactions-
hop in the file too, and then do it, at the same time with multiplayer. Like that'd be really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
think
way
that
less
would
experienced
work.
than Damo is at this, but
Okay, so we got this
I'm gonna
reveal
just-
here. Okay, scroll.
Yeah, this
so
little
scroll
reveal.
into view. Okay.
I'm just gonna make it not expand as much.
Wow, the settings is so easy. Hey, like
Um,
the UI is just pretty
and I might
straightforward.
just delay it a little bit so it kind of gets up in screen before we see it. I'm gonna scroll down.
Nice.
See that fade in at the bottom.
yeah, nice.
Could probably
makes
delay
sense.
it a little bit
Yeah.
more, and you can
Yeah.
control whether it resets or not,
Okay.
which is pretty fun. So that's pretty cool. One last thing that I might demo, which I think a lot of people would be curious about, is mobile menus. Now these are quite fiddly, and I think the execution of them in Figma, is just a little bit janky for now because it still works on this principle of like having two states of a component. So there's no way that we've found to kind of say, hey, look like this on desktop, and on mobile there's like a really drastic change where the menu items kind of fold up into a hamburger menu. So looking at their demo files and how they've demonstrated this, they recommend creating like a separate mobile nav to your desktop nav, which means if you do update your nav, you have to update it in two places, which isn't ideal. And obviously if you're dealing with a large site, that's not very efficient, but it does kind of get it working. So there is just a bit of a bug on export at the moment that we're in the process of fixing up, where it kind of deletes the hamburger menu itself. So I'm just going to come and drag in a new navbar. And which navbar was this? I think it was navbar 2. Okay.
That's so
I'm just
great.
going to bring in navbar 2. Cool. And I'm just going to switch it to mobile.
Mhm.
Cool. And our 3 links: product, pricing.
While you're doing this, the
Resources.
the interactions and animations, have you looked into, is there code behind it? Is it like JavaScript, or is it just like Figma's prototyping engine that is operating that?
Yeah, good question. I'm not actually 100% sure what's
Yeah.
powering that. I don't think it's like editable, like you can get in under the hood and change it. You can
Yeah.
add like custom code sections, I think here. Oh, this is some glitchy UX.
Sorry, I distracted you, but I just wanted to ask.
Some like code embeds and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
in here.
Okay.
But yeah,
Nice.
Okay, so I'm just going to hide this. Great, so now again, we've got like our two states of like an open and a closed state. I'll just swap this to a menu icon. And we're going to create a component set again.
Sorry, I have to pause right there.
states.
So that you,
Yep.
the library that you imported, it has icons as well, for those who don't know.
Yeah, so our library, if I head back to our file,
Yep.
so we've imported into the Figma kit, obviously, and as part of the Figma kit, you have access to, I don't exactly know
Come on, look at
the
that,
number of
guys.
icons, but you have a whole icon library in here. So that really quickly allowed me to select that icon and swap it out from menu
Yeah.
icon,
Okay.
as you would have seen.
Great, thank you.
Cool. So hi, thank you. So now I'm just going to do the same thing. When I click that button, we want to
You
open
guys.
this menu. It's been too long. Okay, and now when we click the close button, it's going to close. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop that on mobile.
Now, the thing I
And-
like about this is like if you don't have a custom animation that you see in the existing list of animations, you can just create your own through this prototyping approach, which is great.
It's quite open and up to your own imagination and like what you can figure out how to do. So
Yeah.
now we've got this nav bar in here. It's still sticky. It's fixed. And then when I click that button, it's going to expand out.
Nice.
Now, again, a limitation of this is that there's no units like viewport height or anything.
Okay.
So I can't ensure that it's always going to cover the user's phone screen.
Hmm.
So in all of their demos, what they actually do is set a nav bar with, I just like wrap this. They always set a nav bar that's kind of like floating on top of the canvas. So if I set this to fill,
Why do you think they're doing that, Damon?
I think just so it looks better. So I'll show you. If I set this to hug the content, and
Oh,
let's
I
just
see.
say I'm going to change
What's
this
all the
to
gap
cover
there,
scheme.
though?
Oh yeah, I'll investigate in a second.
Yeah, change the background color. That would be helpful.
And make that alternate.
Yeah, so you're not
Yeah.
opening like a full height menu. It's a truncated menu. That
Yeah,
Ooh,
exactly.
I like how that goes to dark. That's nice how it goes to dark, actually, Damon.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
it's cool.
when it opens. Okay, so now
Yeah.
if I've done this right,
Hey.
yeah, you can see it. It's
Okay.
just kind of like floating on top,
Yeah,
which
that
just feels a
works.
bit more natural because you can't ensure that it fills. And we actually have
Yeah.
nav bars like that pre-built. If you go into our library, I
course,
think like
of
nav bar
course.
14. Nav bar 14 is built exactly like this and purpose built to float on top of content.
Wow.
So you can always just go and use that nav bar instead.
There we
So
are.
yeah.
Okay, so the layout from navbar 14 is available, but the animations you still have to put go through the process you just showed us, right? Because this is just a
Correct.
single
Yeah,
state.
I'd
Okay.
still create like a second version
Yep.
and then kind of connect them as like an open and a closed state and then drop that onto my page. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
great.
that's majority of it. I guess one last question that everyone's probably asking is tablet breakpoints. If we
Ah,
want to
yeah.
quickly cover that one. So obviously at the moment in our Figma kit, we have desktop and mobile. So what happens if I want to set tablet breakpoints? So it's something we're looking at. Like we could, and we're just trying to prioritize where to put our efforts with the small team that we have on building out specific tablet breakpoints for all of these components. But in the meantime, if you wanted to do that, I could add a tablet breakpoint, and it tries to use the mobile design.
see.
So obviously I'm going to want to make a few changes into here. So firstly, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to set this to horizontally
Nice.
kind of flex. This div in here as well, I think a 2-column still works on tablet there. The header's a bit funky, so I might just want to increase the padding a smidge up there, and this asset.
But look how fast you're able to adjust because you're doing on canvas editing. Like this is really fast.
Yeah,
That's
it
great.
doesn't take too long. It takes like a minute or two to really optimize for tablet. So
Yeah,
here I'm just grouping these into kind of extra frames so I can set
nice.
horizontal auto layout on them. Mobile, I still probably want these to be vertical.
Mm.
That looks
Oh, because that
fine.
was cascading, right? So if you're adjusting the tablet, it'll
Yeah.
cascade to the
So
mobile. Yeah.
an interesting thing actually with Figma Sites, which is worth noting, is in Webflow, things flow down and cascade from desktop down to mobile.
Hmm.
In Figma Sites, there's an idea of a primary and multiple secondary breakpoints. So
Okay.
here you can see my desktop is set to primary, which means
Yep.
any change made to primary will cascade down to all secondaries.
Mm.
But I can change what primary is. So I could right click on mobile and
Mm.
say, where's the button? There should be like a make primary button in here.
Can you right click on it or something?
Set as primary,
Okay.
yeah, set as primary breakpoint. And what that means is if I make a change on desktop now, because it's considered secondary,
Yep.
it actually won't cascade
Nice.
back up to mobile or to like any other secondary breakpoints. But if I do the same on mobile, it'll cascade down. So you can really build like mobile first, which is quite
Yeah.
interesting.
That's really good. And that's you can't really do that with Webflow or other. Does Framer prioritize desktop first? I'm not sure, but yeah, this is great.
Oh, good question.
This is
Set
that's
that
really
to
good.
fill.
These are great hacks, Damien. Come on, I'm really enjoying this. I'm
Yeah,
like
it's an
very
interesting
happy.
one.
What do you think about this, Adam?
So yeah,
It's pretty impressive. Hey.
Yeah, I'm just learning a lot from just watching this. I find this very interesting because if you're familiar with Figma and you're designing in Figma, because you wouldn't design in Webflow on a lot of client projects because there's a lot of like feedback loops and there's a lot of like iteration. So if you're designing in Figma, then you have this like canvas now that can turn into a website. You can probably get better feedback from a client. You can share them a link. Like I find that part really interesting, like being able to actually show a more realistic version of what you're creating,
Mhm.
and share that as a link, and that now the client can interact with it. So yeah, I find that interesting. If I was a web designer today, I'd be using it for like prototypes and sharing with early ideas with the client. Would I use
Yeah.
it for the final production site? I'm not sure. I probably would still use Webflow just because of all the extensibility of it and the CMS. But yeah,
Yeah, and again, I think
pretty
these
powerful.
are approaches and workflows that accelerate and advance the conversation on like if clients want to put more budget into an idea. First, you can try it in Figma sites first, and then they want to make it more robust and say, oh yeah, well, now that you see the working prototype, or even it's it's a real site, but we can add a CMS layer, we can add custom coding or animations, and like just take it to the next level. Then you can bring it to Webflow or
Totally.
other exporters. So this is really really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And linking demo, can you do on-page linking? I know you can do linking to other pages, but can you do on-page?
yeah. So if I wanted to link this to a section on the page, I can use my usual Figma prototyping spaghetti noodle and just drag that. So yeah, it's part of like the interactions link. Scroll down to like a
Nice.
particular section, and I think that should work. So let's try that.
Oh, it's like a
Yeah, so
setting.
jump
Cool.
down. Yeah, it's a bit. I wonder if I
Probably
can
ease.
make that like ease or something. Yeah,
Oh, it's instant. Yeah, there you go.
animate. Let's
Oh,
see.
this is fun. Yeah,
Yeah, there
come
we go.
on.
That's
That's
cool.
pretty
So
cool.
yeah, as a Figma user, it's very familiar, and I think they've intentionally, obviously, done that. But very familiar around like prototyping and interactions. Feel familiar. The way components and things work is familiar. So, like you're saying, Adam, I think it really speeds you up, maybe to like present to a client like a realistic version of your site, and maybe like just kind of like get closer. And then a real build, you might still want to use Webflow, and depending on the project, I think Webflow or something that's producing some better code, better like SEO optimized.
Question from
But
Jake saying, are you able
Awesome.
to add any basic custom code at all, like GTM tracking codes? Have you looked into that?
Yeah, haven't spent tons of time getting into that just yet. There is like embeds. Let's see, what can I actually do here? To be honest, I haven't spent tons of time to paste URL or paste like an iframe.
Oh, so these are like basically
So
like
very
iframes.
limited.
I think
Yeah.
at a page settings level though, you can put some code as well.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, Google Analytics ID,
Yeah, so you got
Okay.
yeah, so you got your Google Analytics.
custom code.
Yeah,
You got your head and body. Oh, yeah, that's not bad. And your favicons. That's pretty good for the first release, like V0.
Mm.
And I think it's only going to
Yeah,
get better.
for sure.
nice.
So can we publish?
Let's click the
Moment of
button.
truth.
So I think some issues to review. I think some auto layout updates that they've made. And then obviously accessibility, that might be worth mentioning as well quickly, that
Yeah.
they've got this like accessibility sections of if I wanted to tag this like as a H1, I can click tag and then change that.
Oh, nice.
On a section, I can tag it as like a div, a header, whatever. So was that my header? No, that was the logo section.
Okay, so these taggings you have to do manually. You guys weren't able to do it in the Relume library per se, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we looked into it.
Yeah.
Again, all of these properties are only available in Figma Sites. So we did explore like copying our library into Figma Sites, setting some of these properties, and then trying to get it back into like a Figma design file. But it felt quite risky. It was a bit like open heart surgery,
Yeah.
like Figma and the process of moving components and like moving master components and styles from one file to another is super. I find it really, I don't know, buggy and janky. I always break stuff. I always break like instances and links. So we didn't really want to risk that right now. But I think in the future, once there's maybe like plugins and things available in Figma Sites, or we're able to like publish a community file from Figma Sites and things like that, then we'll have more of an opportunity to like bake that stuff into the components like we do for Windflow.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I think it's promising. I mean,
Agree.
there's no doubt that they'll probably release more of these features where it can sync up easier. Yeah,
For
that's
sure.
great.
Oh, one thing I didn't do is set this as my homepage. So I'm going to right click set as homepage and just delete the blank one. And I probably need to republish quickly.
And then you can connect it to domain. Have you looked into the connection there? Is that pretty easy? Okay, well, let's take a look at the staging. So this is a staging site, right?
Yeah, this is staging. Why is, oh, well, this is quite buggy. What's going on here?
Yeah. You can copy that site URL. Yep.
Well, this was working yesterday.
Oh.
Live demos. So yeah, this is like a staging domain that they give to you. You can connect the domain. We haven't like finished through connecting up that flow, but it is free for the rest of the year to connect a custom domain and like host your websites and everything like that. So that's quite interesting.
Okay. Let's see. Okay.
Oh, there we are. We got there.
We got there in the end.
That's pretty cool, guys. I'm quite impressed. I think for like the majority of users, right, like marketing sites one-off, I mean, Figma is always the platform where like ideas are generated first and concepts are tested. So this is just brings it to the next level and actually showing how well it's done. As opposed to the old way of like prototyping, you know, web design layouts, this is like the interactions are more robust. That's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like a good first start, and for like a small designer wanting to put out your portfolio or just get something on the internet really quick, if this is where your knowledge lies, this is a really quick first way to get published. Yeah, without having to go like learn Webflow or learn Framer or learning another tool. It's familiar, it's there. and I think it will likely continue to improve. So excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. I don't think they've added any functionality for forms, but probably like that site embed, you could probably embed some iframe with a form in there, but I think that's the extent of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice. Jake says, jankiness aside, I see Figma Sites as a quick landing page tool for clients. They want to run ads, but have no budgets for a full site. I'll do anything to not build another page in the WordPress site. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, 100%.
That's cool. Cool, guys. Well, I guess that wraps up our stream on Figma Sites. And I mean, that's, again, pretty impressive. You're taking the whole workflow that you can do in the Relume site builder and then apply it to Figma. That's pretty great.
Yeah. Very.
Thanks, Damo, for
cool.
taking us through it.
First list. Anytime. Sorry, Ori, if you're still on, that we couldn't do your the design that you requested. It has published now, but yeah, maybe we can share something else later.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Any final words before we wrap up?
I think overall, yeah, super exciting just to see like another entry and another way for people to build a site. I think it's always good the more competition there is for like designers to have multiple options that suit different use cases. So I think the more competition, the more options, the more designers win, and yeah, I think that's a good thing. So excited to see where it goes.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll be keeping tabs on the how much the Relume community want us to continue building for it. There are things that we can do to improve it, like add the interactions, tablet responsiveness, but we're also going to be seeing how Figma evolves the platform. And yeah, so you'll probably see some updates, but also just checking in with the community and seeing how much they want us to build this, because there's a lot of things that we can build right now, so you got to choose wisely.
Yeah, go to the website relume.io. Under the community, there's a new community roadmap page where you can upvote what you want built. And so this is what we call the candy store. So if you want, it looks like the most popular one is more components. Okay, the people have spoken, and so the team will go ahead and prioritize that into their roadmap. And if you have a specific idea, add it in and submit it, and it'll get upvoted. All right, guys.
100%.
Nice.
Sweet. We'll see you guys in the next stream.
Thanks,
for
Josh.
joining. Pleasure. Always fun.
Thank you.
Demo, thanks for showing your Figma skills. So good to see the master at work. And
Thank you. Good to be here.
Have an amazing day. Have an amazing week ahead. We'll see you guys next time. All right.
See ya.